Welcome to the Harshie Podcast. I'm Brandon.
In January.
And we're back.
Again.
We've been slacking a little bit last couple weeks.
We have been mindfully slacking.
True. We had to recover from a big move.
I'm recovering from the last 3 years.
Okay, there's that
Plus
too.
a big move.
Plus a big move.
So I am mindfully and intentionally slowing down.
That sounds like a plan.
It has been a plan.
Yeah, it has been a plan.
This is not off the cuff or fly by the seat of my pants or spontaneous manic decision, anything like that. This has been very planned out, worked towards, and very much needed. So I'm okay with us skipping a podcast here or there, or taking an extra day off from checking emails, or many other things. You can probably hear it in my voice. I just feel very slowed down, and I've worked really hard to get to this place, and I would love to share more about it at a different time, because right now I'm in it, and I'd rather not talk about it while I'm in it. But today there's something that you really have been pestering me to talk about and for us to do a podcast on. Do you want to share with everyone listening what that is?
Coffee is not wine or alcohol.
These silly arguments people make. I mean, nowadays, especially in the age of blogging and social media, you can post something well-intentioned, well-meaning, just sharing your journey, and people just have to play devil's advocate, or they maybe intentionally or unintentionally make it about them, or it's a very frustrating space to try to navigate. And recently, I shared how I decided to end the debate within myself on drinking alcohol, and how wine culture and mom culture have mixed to become a mom wine culture, and the feminist issues attached to the marketing of wine and rosé and alcohol to women, and especially mothers. And for me, that light bulb going off about that sealed the deal for me. And there's so many women who are in this space of falling into that marketing and that coolness and that vibe of, wine o'clock, or when it's witching hours, I can't get through a day without mommy juice. And it's funny and trendy, and especially on social media, and you can start something innocent and fun, and then you start becoming dependent on it, and then it starts becoming a habit, and then you start really relying on it, and it's no longer funny, and it's no longer fun, and it's not a joke. And I'm not talking about like getting drunk every day even, but having 2 glasses of wine regularly. And by regularly, I mean, a couple times a week, or some weeks every evening. It turns into a very codependent relationship. And you wake up the next day, and it depends on the person, it depends on the situation, but just not feeling your best self because you had 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or more glasses of wine, which is so socially acceptable, almost feels sometimes it's socially necessary. And you end up in this cycle of dependency and guilt and self-doubt and self-hatred and frustration. It's, again, different. There's variations of normal within this, just like with anything else. And some women fall into a life of alcoholism, and others might feel like, I'm not an alcoholic, so, is this really a problem? But deep down you feel it is a problem, but you don't know where you are in that. Anyway, so I shared about this on our Teetotaler podcast. I got a teetotaler tattoo. This is, as you can hear, a very personal decision for me. And in no way is this a judgment on anyone else. If you have a glass of wine tonight, you enjoy it, high five, sister. But I'm just sharing about my journey, because if it's a journey I'm on, I know that is a journey maybe some other women are on, and that they just need to hear another woman say, hey, me too. I'm going through that too. Oh, wait, I'm not the only one that's going through that cycle? Okay. And that's why I'm sharing it. And anytime I share anything about me choosing to be sober or a teetotaler in my experience, without fail, somebody brings up coffee. Isn't coffee marketed to women and moms, and isn't coffee, harmful as well? And my first thought is, are you fucking kidding me? Oh, you're fucking serious. You're really fucking coming at me with this right now. And it's ridiculous. It is absolutely 1000% ridiculous. Is coffee marketed, and especially to parents? Absolutely. So is everything else in our culture. But yes, absolutely it is. That's a whole other topic though. They're two completely different conversations. And to try to devalue, especially a woman and a mother taking a stand for herself and her mental and physical health, and trying to devalue that by throwing a curveball and about something else completely, is rude and unnecessary. And why? Just why, Susan? Why? Why even do that? Second of all, no, coffee is not the same as wine. Coffee is not the same as alcohol. And let's unpack that for a moment. What do you think? Should we unpack that?
Let's unpack it.
Right.
Can I start?
You can start. Go ahead.
Well, when it comes to caffeine, and this is actually something I know a little bit about because I've always had a little bit of a caffeine sensitivity when I was younger. Mm-hmm. But I've embraced it as a parent in recent years because, let's face it, I was tired of always being tired. And when you have lots of kids, you're fatigued often. Mm-hmm. And so for me, caffeine is at this point in my life, it feels like a necessity, because to be the kind of husband and father I want to be, the kind of man I want to be during the day, I need some help in that department. So caffeine can definitely be helpful in that sense. I know a lot of people will mention about how it can wear down your adrenals. It can cause some anxiety in people. And if that's the case, then obviously you manage your caffeine intake a lot more. Don't drink coffee, or if you do want to have some caffeine, have maybe a little bit of green tea in the morning and regulate it that way. There are ways to get around that and not have that affect your life if you're sensitive to it. But for those of us who want caffeine in our life, it can be a very good thing. It can curb your appetite. People who want to lose weight and get in better shape, it's great for that. Basically, the research on caffeine can go either way. I can spend an hour and find all sorts of stuff to justify the pros of caffeine, and I could spend an hour finding all sorts of research justifying the cons of it. It really is your stance and how your body feels with caffeine, and coffee or tea or however you want to do it. I feel like in my life, and probably in your life with 6 kids and how busy we are, coffee it's like you say, it's a sister wife. For me, it's a bro.
I actually did not drink coffee for about 8 years when we were more men.
True.
And I had my 5th child, and my sister got me a coffee, and I drank it, and I felt like a completely different person. And I discovered that for me personally, coffee helps with my depression, and it helps with postpartum depression. And so I found myself in a situation where if I can have a little bit of coffee, even though I'm told it's wrong at the time because I was Mormon, and avoid taking pharmaceutical drugs, which again, not criticizing anyone who does, just that's the situation I was in and that's where I found myself, then why wouldn't I just enjoy coffee? And, I listen to my body with it. For some people, it really does affect their anxiety or affect them in other ways, or their sleep. So don't drink it, but it's not the same thing as alcohol. Coffee does not make me lose my inhibitions. Like, it doesn't make me want to take off all my clothes and hump everything in sight. I do not regret coffee the next morning. You can still operate heavy machinery when you drink coffee.
More effectively, I might add.
More effectively, you may add. Thank you. And you need to say like more effectively in a really cool like voice or something.
More effectively.
That was just sexy. I can enjoy a cup of coffee with my children, but I cannot pour them a shot of vodka and enjoy a shot of vodka with my children.
That would be bad parenting.
That would be. It's not the same thing.
It's really
so
not.
When people try to come at me when I am, or anyone, see, this is actually a thing. This is, in air quotes, a thing. When somebody speaks up about alcohol or the marketing of alcohol or as a feminist issue or becoming sober, people get really freaking defensive about it, and they argue coffee, and it's the most bizarre thing. It's like you can't come up with anything else. So this is what you got. This is what you got for me.
Well, this is like what I was telling you just a little bit ago. To me, the difference between coffee and alcohol, literally coffee being a better thing for you than alcohol, or caffeine, I should say, better than alcohol, is akin to someone saying, yeah, as humans, we need to eat food to survive. I mean, is that even really up for debate that that coffee is as bad or worse than alcohol? That's not even a thing to me. That's not real.
Right. It's almost like you want to scratch your head and just say, huh? Like,
Yeah,
this is not an argument. This is not up for, and this has been my response. This is not even up for debate with me because it's really ridiculous. So the way I feel about it is, coffee is not alcohol. It's not in the same category. However, I put coffee in the same category as dairy, gluten, and things like that. If you eat gluten, Brandon, sometimes it affects how you feel. It affects your sleep. Like you just don't feel as good. If I eat dairy, it tears up my insides. Like I think I'm on, Alien 7 and there's an alien trying to come out of my intestines. It is so awful. It's so awful. But, Catherine down the street might be just fine with those, but not fine with coffee, and coffee might affect her. It's a dietary choice, you guys. So if I am making a debate about dairy or gluten and you want to come at me with coffee, fine. We can do that. But if I'm talking about alcohol and you come at me with coffee, no. Absolutely not. That's like if somebody is like, you know what? I'm so proud of myself. I've been sober. I've been off crack cocaine for 2 years. And it's like, yeah, well, what about coffee? You deserve a throat punch. Are you serious? And somebody came at me the other day and said, well, caffeine is so harmful that they banned it in the Olympics. So what do you think you're doing drinking coffee? First of all, I didn't even bring up coffee in this post. But second of all, that's false information. Like I feel like I need to pull a Dwight from the false. That is false, Susan. False. That ban was lifted in 2004 because it was so ridiculous.
It probably because research came out that caffeine was not harmful bad for you.
That's exactly what happened.
Exactly.
And also it's more complicated than that. They can't regulate it. So you have people who are like taking in caffeine at super high doses that are unhealthy. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's bad for you. And they banned everything. And obviously that's been proven to not be true. It's not bad for you. I mean, if you take anything at too high doses of a level, we can make almost anything bad. So that's absolutely untrue. That ban was lifted 14 years ago. And that's not true either. So people come at me with all this stuff and they're just false. It's just false. Here's the thing at the end of the day though. You do you. If you don't feel great drinking coffee and you feel just fine having a couple of glasses of wine a week and it's not affecting you, you do. That's fine. That is, we cannot live our lives or every single post on social media be for every single person. Just high five me and move on into you and I'll high five you. We don't have to be doing things the same. This life thing that we're doing is not a competition, friends. We can high five each other. We can share our journey. So, because when we share our journey and our story and our voice, it helps other people find their way on their journey, on their story, and to use their voice. It doesn't mean we have to do things the same. I'm not trying to change anyone's mind. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just sharing my journey and my voice because it might help you do the same in your own way. So coffee is not alcohol, you guys, and it's not in the same category for me, and it's not up for debate, and I'm allowed to do what I feel is best for me right now, and I'm allowed to change my mind. If later on I decide coffee is not good for me and I don't drink it anymore, that is specifically about coffee and has nothing to do with alcohol. That's all I have to say on this.
One thing I will add is that in all fairness, caffeine is the most addictive drug in the world. However, that being said, would you rather a family member be a coffee addict, caffeine addict, or a meth addict? Would you rather a coworker be an alcoholic or a coffee addict? Would you rather anyone be addicted to something harmful versus coffee? And that's where the difference is. And like you said, coffee and caffeine falls more into a dietary choice, whereas alcohol is more on the other side of things. And there is quite a difference.
There is. Or how about I'd rather be addicted, as you say, but I rather enjoy a cup of coffee or be addicted to coffee than be addicted to social media.
Yeah.
And apps on my phone, or gaming, or gambling, or there's so many other things that are more harmful to us, that are marketed to us, that we are all using daily, that for somebody to try to argue with me over me having a cup of coffee is, like you said, it's a moot point. Like it's just not even an argument. It's like someone trying to start an argument over something that's not, like, you can't argue. Yeah, I feel like I've spent too much time on this podcast alone discussing this, because it really is SMH.
Yeah. I almost want to say that, well, not almost, I'm going to say it, that I might feel a little bit more flabbergasted over all these comments that you're getting from people than you are, because to me it's just it's ridiculous. There's not even a comparison. It's literally comparing apples and oranges, caffeine and alcohol. They're two totally different things. They two totally different biochemical actions in your body. One shoots you up, one brings you down. Well, no, shoots you up. That's a bad analogy.
Oh.
One brings you up.
Wow.
One brings you down.
That was probably the best misspoken thing since I talked about small titties.
Yeah, small titties.
Which podcast was that?
Oh man,
what
I don't
episode
remember.
was that? When I was talking about, I tried to say small cities and I said small titties.
I don't remember. I'll have to look that up. I guess I was comparing coffee and heroin, and one shoots me up, one will bring me up.
They are uppers and downers. And, I actually found myself in a cycle of drinking coffee during the day and then drinking wine at night and regulating my moods with coffee and alcohol. And that is a problem for sure. That is a problem. So I removed part of that cycle. And then when it comes to coffee and caffeine, I just listen to my body. Just like when I'm pregnant, people are like, did you drink coffee when you're pregnant? It's like, that's a complicated answer. Yes and no. Like there were months where I just didn't feel like I could drink it. And so I didn't. And then there were months that I felt like I could drink a little bit and I get through half a cup and my body's like, you're done. I'm like, okay. I can definitely listen to my body. That's another difference for me. When it comes to coffee and caffeine, I am very in tune with my body and listen to my body with it. When it comes to alcohol, I don't. Like, I'm not a wine glass kind of gal. So I know my body is telling me enough. I'll keep drinking, So there's another difference for me. There's so many differences. They're not the same thing. And if we're going to talk about marketing, that's a whole other thing that does not just include alcohol and wine as well. But it's okay for us to specifically talk about one thing without trying to make it about all these other things. They're two different conversations. And if you see somebody that is bettering their life or doing something better for them, if you don't have anything positive to add, just shut the fuck up.
Actually,
tuck your thumbs away, preferably up your ass, and just leave the person alone. I can no longer stand seeing women especially tear each other down. You can't do anything, share anything, or say anything now without the fear of someone turning it into something else. And that means you can't even go about your day or your life without the fear of somebody judging you, saying, oh, you shouldn't have said it that way, that's this, or you shouldn't have said it that way, that's this, or, that's offending so-and-so, or that offends me, or that triggers me, or, that means, well, if you're not drinking alcohol, that means like you're judging me that I am, and now I need to get defensive and argue with you, or what about this, or what about that, or what about, and it's like, look, I'm done. I'm so done with all of this. And with this, it's not serving anyone, and this goes obviously beyond this conversation of, coffee not being alcohol. Many of you who follow me on social media know that I'm taking a break and I've worked really hard to get to this point. And I'm telling you, living your life away from constantly seeing everyone's posts, everyone's thoughts, everyone's comments. Even if you're following all positive stuff, it doesn't matter. You're taking in so much. There's a level of anxiety and fear, I think, that we all carry just by including social media into our daily lives. I'm really over it. I really am. Like there's stuff that I've said on this podcast that I'm sure somebody could, if I wrote it out in a post on Instagram, I can't even imagine the amount of arguments that could come from it, because I actually can't imagine, because people will find anything and everything that I would not even be able to fathom or bring to the table. So you have to just continue to do you and be mindful of how much you're putting out there, and can make your stuff private. You can turn off comments, you can do, or just step away. And if you're in this space, whether it's in person, whether it's in your mom group, at church, on social media, be nice, be supportive. I had to ask someone the other day, like, is it really that hard to just stop trying to change my mind and just high five me and be kind? Is that so hard for us to do for each other?
Well, I think there is this need by some people that they have to play the devil's advocate. And if you believe in the devil, I'm pretty sure he's doing okay and he doesn't need an advocate. He doesn't need someone to speak up for him. And so,
I love you.
Like you said, if you feel the need to be a devil's advocate,
He's
just
good.
Shut the hell up. Move on. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to be a troll. Just move on. And I'm saying this being a bit of a former troll myself online. I used to love getting into online debates. I feel like I'm a pretty good debater. But guess what? It only makes people dislike you and hate you. So you don't need to be a devil's advocate.
Anyone's mind.
No, you're not going to change anyone's mind on social media, of all things. No, it's just not going to happen.
I had someone send me an article about caffeine, and my response was, I am not going to read this because it's not going to change my mind of what's best for me right now. That's actually verbatim what I said. And her need to try to change my mind had nothing to do with me. Like, why, if I'm happy and healthy mentally and physically, why are you trying to change what I'm doing for me? That has nothing to do with me, honey, and everything to do with you and whatever you're going through when it comes to, in this case, wine and coffee, and your need to try to put your opinions on other people and change their minds. So that has absolutely nothing to do with me. So by the way, I'm done. I'm done with this conversation. So if you have anything else to add, you can add it. But
no, I think we pretty much established that coffee and alcohol are different.
Yeah, and if and when I get back on social media, if anyone tries it again, I'll just leave them a link to this podcast, or you just tell them to shut the fuck up.
Just shut the fuck up. Tuck your thumbs up your ass.
I don't know. You know what? After this podcast, I might just stay off social media because, I'm going to I would get in trouble probably. And I just don't care anymore. I'm done.
Talk to them how my dad would talk to people who pissed him off. Fucking asshole.
I love it. This is why I love getting older. This is why I'm aging without fear, because I think the older you get, the less, at least for me, the less tolerance I have for drama, and the less I really do care what people think, and the more I'm comfortable speaking my mind on what's best for me and really not giving a shit about what anyone's going to say about it. So the way I see it is, if somebody is going to get offended about something I've said on today's podcast, let them blow it up in their groups and on their pages, because I won't be there to see it. So I don't care. Just spell my name right. It's January like the month, and Harshe, Harshe, no Y. Thank you. All right. On our next podcast, we're actually going to be finally sharing our story of why and how we became vegan. My journey, your journey, and the kids, because it's different for all of us.
Yep.
And I think I'm going to follow that up with some tips on going vegan as well. So for those of you who have been waiting to hear that journey and wondering why we haven't shared, there's no reason. We just haven't done it yet. But that's coming up on our next podcast. I love you guys.
Adios.